Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm Eric, the dude who grows food, and today we are talking about blackberries. Blackberries have quickly become, if not my favorite thing to grow, probably top 3 along with beets and sweet potatoes. And from a berry standpoint, I grow and fill my freezer primarily right now with strawberries and blackberries. And though my strawberry production has far outpaced my blackberry production to date, I'll say I kind of like blackberries more. Not just in the growing, but I kind of enjoy eating them a bit more. It's a subjective taste, but I find blackberries to be a little bit more complex. You got some sweet, you got some tart. I feel like there's more notes going on than strawberries. Still love my strawberries, don't get me wrong, but blackberries are quickly holding a very special place in my heart. I also like growing them because they offer a bit of an intermediate level challenge for anybody who's trying to grow something. Some things you grow, you take a seed, you put it in the ground, boom, it grows, harvest done. Blackberries require a little bit more finesse. You've got to understand how they grow. You have to understand pruning techniques to maximize not just the quantities of the berries, but the quality of the berry, kind of balancing those two things out. And then if you really want to kind of get your game going, you got to learn how to propagate a little bit. And they're very easy to propagate, but they still take a little bit of work. So again, I'm loving the blackberry game, and I want to bring to you what my experience has been so far. Now you'll have to excuse the mess. I am in the middle of cleaning these up, and last night we had a nice 5 to 6 inch rain, some floods in the area, so things are looking a little bit rough. Plus I got some weeds to pull out. But this is my blackberry patch, or blackberry patch number 1, because I have a second one that was created without really planning on it. It just kind of happened that way. Originally in this section I had 5 plants, all of the same variety, and they went into the ground in February, March of 2022. It was the variety Natchez. I got 5 plants from Lowe's, and I put them in here probably about 5 feet apart. The following year, spring of 2023, I bought 5 different varieties from a local grower and put them in between. So the spacing got very tight very fast. Most of the time you're going to keep them about 4 to 5 feet apart. Mine are closer to about 2.5 feet apart. But I do prune them to try to manage that, and it creates a nice little hedge kind of look to it, and I don't mind that at all. They all kind of seam together. Not great for commercial production, I'm guessing. You probably want a little bit more airflow in there, a little more room to work, but for my purposes, it does seem to work pretty well. Now, to give you an idea of how blackberries grow, because that's really important to understand. There's 2 real primary things to understand when it comes to blackberries. 1 is how they grow, and 2 is pruning for your best results. So what I've got here is a blackberry sucker that I pulled out of the ground about 4 months ago and stuck it in this pot. Doesn't look like much right now, but it does have a full root system, and if I put it into the ground, in a couple of years it's going to look just like the plants behind me, producing a ton of berries, barring anything, tragic happening to the plant. To understand how blackberries grow, let's start with this plant right here. This is a first-year plant. It just popped out of the ground. It's what they call a primocane. Your primocane is your first-year cane that is going to go through your season and put on a ton of growth. In the winter, it's going to go dormant, and in the following year, late spring, early summer, that same cane is going to be what is referred to as a floricane. It's going to be the flowering and fruiting cane from which you're going to harvest, and once that process is done, the cane is done. You're going to cut it out. Now, you might think to yourself, well, wait a minute, how am I going to get more blackberries? And that's where the nuance comes with how blackberries actually grow and fruit. In year 2, when this little guy is a floricane, fully grown, ready to flower and fruit, simultaneously out of the crown and the base of the plant, you're going to see new herbaceous growth coming out. That is the current year's primocane. So simultaneously, you're going to have primocanes and floricanes, and this is where a bit of nuance comes into play in how to manage them. You have to be tracking your canes. Is it a floricane? Is it a primocane? Because they're going to be appearing they're going to be present at the same time. Now, it's not hard to figure out what's what. You can basically start by, let me show you. With this plant here in front, and yes, I have a lot of plants going on, but what you're going to see are spent fruit sets. If you took that fruit set and you traced it all the way back to the base of the plant, this cane here is your flora cane. It's your current year fruiting cane, and right next door you can see more herbaceous looking primocanes. These, next year at this time, are going to look like these. And then next year, when these look like these, new ones of these are going to be coming out. So when these things are done fruiting, which they're just about done, this one actually could probably come out. I've been cutting these things out over the past couple of days to make room for the new ones. Once that's done, you make room for the new ones. And these guys then have to go to the compost pile. So it sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. You've got two sets of canes at any given time after your first year. Your fruiting canes and your herbaceous canes. And then all you do is take out the ones you don't want. The ones you don't want are going to be primarily two things: spent flora canes, and I'm going to say the excess primocanes. Because if you want to get the best crop, you don't want to stress out the crown by having too many primocanes. It's a lot of energy wasted on the plant. The fewer you have, to a certain point, the better your berry production is probably going to be. And what I mean by that is, one might be too few, five's probably too many. Somewhere between 2 and 4, if you manage them properly, is a good number of canes. But here's the second nuance that comes when it comes to growing good berries. The second thing you really have to pay attention to is the pruning technique. And let me talk to you a bit about what I do and what I've been trying to get better at over the last 3 years to get better fruit. So from where I'm standing right now, I'm facing west, and this is one of my plants that I put against the fence just to kind of maximize the yields that I can get out of the space I have, because in essence it was unused space. Now what you're looking at is a primocane. The floricanes have already come out of the ground because they were fully spent. And this plant here is going to be my fruiting cane of next year. Now it came out of the ground and I wanted to keep it relatively compact. So as it grew, and I said it's tall enough, I pinched right here and I said, you're gone. That stopped the growth upright. And it forced the plant at that point, I believe, to start pushing out these lateral branches. Now these lateral branches are the branches upon which the flowers and fruit next year are going to set. The thicker and more robust they are, the better the fruit is probably going to be. And I can only say that from the experience I have, because I've noted that when my side shoots get really long and lanky, one, it puts the plant at risk because the weight of the fruit, even when the fruit is small, tends to weigh the branch down. But two, the thinner and kind of daintier the lateral branch is, the weaker the fruit seems to be. And I think it has something to do with the fact that a lot of energy from the root has to travel up through the plant to get to the fruit at the tips of those real skinny branches. And it's just not, it just seems to be the plant can't push that energy hard enough. So this is the branch upon which you're going to get your fruit, and at some point, to manage this, I'm going to start pinching back on these a bit too, so that this branch thickens up, firms up, and gives me a better shot for better fruit. Now this only pushed one primocane out this year. I don't know why. If there were 4, I probably would have taken 2 of them out because I don't want this to be a crowded space. You can see his next door neighbor here is in a similar boat. I haven't taken this fruiting cane out, this flora cane out, but I have a really tall primocane right here that I have cut back, and I'm starting to see the lateral branches now forming. Now, as far as pruning the lateral branches, I've got to figure out at what length I want to stop those, and do I want to remove certain lateral branches so that, again, the plant is better managed. And we're going to see that, in a sense, at the next door neighbor over here. Now, not all the floricanes are out for this one because I can see some fruit there, fruit sets that are spent. I got to take those out. But he's got a nice, big, tall central. I can see that somewhere along here, I cut him back. And now I see these side branches coming out. This one's facing directly into the fence. I may get rid of that just because it's not going to be easily managed. An example of pruning gone wrong, I have an amazingly thick floricane that got weighed down with way too much fruit. Ooh, edible berry. And what you can see here is I let lateral branches on him get way too long. These fruits here barely set. to get all the way up, that energy from that root system, it had to travel probably 8 or 10 feet, and that I think was just too much. And this is why I'm working more and more to get better and better about sacrificing quantity for quality. I'm going to have fewer canes, shorter side shoots, and probably more robust fruit if I take that process. Now, we spoke earlier about how these things grow on a 2-year cycle, primocane, floricane. There is a little bit of nuance, and that is going to come with one particular variety that I have, and there may be other ones out there. I'm not overly familiar with all the varieties out there in the blackberry game, but the variety is called Prime Arc Freedom. It is a result of the breeding program out of the University of Arkansas, and it is what they refer to as a primocane fruiting variety. Let me show you what that means. This plant here, the closest one to the T-post, I know is a Prime Arc Freedom. Right now he's got probably a couple of too many canes, but let me show you what I mean by it being a primocane fruiting variety. These are all first year canes. The second year canes, let me step back a bit. This is a first year cane, came out of the ground, and what we can see, young fruit. Very young fruit. It's probably going to mature in about a month's time or so on the tips of the branches. Now what's going to happen is that fruit is going to finish, it's going to get eaten by me, and then those flower sets are going to die off, but the branch itself is not done. Next spring, this variety is going to be the earliest one to throw fruit down the rest of its lateral branches, and it is going to be amazing. It is probably my favorite variety by far, not for the first year fruit, but the second year fruit actually seems to be stronger than the legitimate second year fruit on the varieties that don't have a first year fruit. So that's where there can be a little bit of nuance, but by and large, the varieties you're going to find at the store are probably going to be thornless, and they're going to be floricane bearing varieties. Now, as far as propagation goes, most of the time in nature, what you're going to see with big fields of wild blackberries, they grow in the sense that their canes are going to come out of the ground, they're going to bend over, they're going to stick into the ground, it's going to root, and it's going to keep leaping more and more. You can do that same thing with varieties like this. You can take the tips of lateral branches, stick them into the ground, and get them to root, cut them off the main plant, pull them out that way. I don't personally do that. I just haven't gotten into that game yet, but what I do is my propagation through suckers. If we look at the floor from this Prime Arc Freedom, we see weeds, we see wood chips, and then we see a plant. That, my friends, is a blackberry sucker. If things go well, I could pull that out of the ground, stick it in potting mix, maybe water, get it to root out a little bit more robustly, and eventually plant it. Now, I've actually taken things out of the ground straight up like this, moved them in other parts of the garden, watered them in, and had some success for there. But ideally, the better root system that you can develop on it before you transplant it, the better it's going to be. But that is exactly how I created this plant. This was nothing more than a sucker that came out of the ground. I put it in potting mix, it rooted, and to give you an idea of what kind of a root system it can have in a few months, we've got roots all over. I could transplant him today without an issue, and in 2 years he is going to look exactly like the plants you've seen behind me. So yeah, now I've finished 3 years of harvesting blackberries. I've really enjoyed this crop. I hope that if you're not growing them and you have the space to grow them, they don't take up a ton of space and they don't take a ton of work, but they do take a little bit of understanding of the growth pattern and the pruning to maximize what you're going to get out of it. And as far as taste goes, like I said, for berries, one, they're berries so they're healthy as can be, and two, from a flavor standpoint, they've got some fun stuff going on between the tart and the sweet. If you enjoyed this, please let me know. Give me a comment below. We'll talk a bit more about blackberries. If there's anything you want to see in the patch, again, let me know. I'll be more than happy to chat it up. And I hope this inspired you to consider getting some blackberries going in your patch if you don't already have them. Appreciate you watching. See you in the next one.